Hello, dear one. I'm Amandha Zhane, and thank you so much for joining me. I am the founder of Love is Freedom, which is a movement that's inspiring lifestyles supportive of our true nature. And that sparked the series Balanced Power because during the missions with Love is Freedom, I was the sole member for a while, but then I rallied some support. But during our missions, I met incredible leaders and studied what made them special. Why were they so successful and happy, even though they were up against the same odds? How were they able to accomplish so much while still making a profit or still living a life as themselves instead of this idea of themselves? In this series, not only are we going to go to the root of power, but we are going to balance it. And this is free information from leading experts in the field of balanced power. This is leadership for the new world. This is leadership that doesn't disown chaos or darkness or the feminine. We deserve to have nourishment in our work, nourishment in our family life, nourishment in our societies. And it starts with us. It really does. And so these experts are going to walk us through building the foundation within us so that we affect the collective from an energetic truth in our own energetic systems, because everything is frequency. We have energy centers in our bodies. In Chinese medicine or Taoism, Tantra, there are 3 energy centers. They're called dantians. And the lower one holds your sexual energy. And this is readily available for most people. You have a lot of it. So you can create a lot. And it may be so intense that you may find yourself reaching for addictions or other ways to burn off that sexual energy. But did you know you can cycle that energy through your body? And not only does it relieve you of that urge, but it also empowers your organs to have more influence over your senses so that you are not at the mercy of following your senses. It gives you a lot of personal power. Not only that, but I have personally experienced feelings of universal love and even ecstatic bliss when I cycle that through my upper dantian, which is the center of the chi, your life force. And then if you continue to cycle and you get used to cycling this energy, you are going to activate the Shen energy. And that is your spiritual self moving through your body. So you have a higher intelligence, a higher perspective, and incredible extrasensory perceptions, knowingness, perfect health, magnetizing, creative power. You have all of these activated powers by simply unlocking the powers in your dantians. And that is something free and accessible that we are going to go through in our balanced power experiences. This particular series, we're going to lay the foundational work for that by giving you the overview of where we're going to be able to live in our full power. Not only that, but what is power? And what is power without purpose? Seems like it can get you a little burnt out. Thich Nhat Hanh, I took my Buddhist vows with his order because he's not a monk that sits in a temple. He was, but when his people started being killed in Vietnam, he decided to start active Buddhism. And not only did he go out and help his people, but he went to America and he went to the person who was hurting his people, the American soldier, and he helped them come to wholeness. He was even outlawed from his own country for doing this. And this is something that is not completely necessary, But when it's something that I have energetically aligned myself to by taking my Buddhist vows with his order, it's something that is part of me to share. And perhaps after I share this, I can go on my tantric path, become an artist and a DJ, which are my dreams. I love doing that stuff. And I know that I can do that now, but there's a lot of work to do because the collective consciousness is experiencing a state of fear, of uncertainty, and the leaders are becoming more and more unethical. I have met so many good leaders. However, the ones who are exerting power and creating some of these policies that are creating the most chaos, that's not who we want to look to. And we are so grateful for the chaos because this is an opportunity to blow it up. Something that's not working, something that serves no one really. Not even the millionaires are happy. They are unfulfilled, they're disconnected from themselves, and they're seeking purpose. They're finding that their businesses are not even going to be solvent because they haven't prioritized sustainability. So we have an advantage here with balanced power. When we come into our own energetic truth, we hear our heart. We have our higher guidance. We are energetically aligned to that which is on our path already. We really just get to get out of our own way. Forget all the things you've learned about leadership. Forget all the things you've learned about self-development. Remember who you are and what you're here creating and what you love and who you love. Because the definition of power, maybe fame, maybe money, maybe beauty, physical prowess, to me and my teachers, power is love. I'm not even going to get into the actual transformative power, the power of love to regulate your limbic system and to resonate with others so that it rewires both of your brains. I'm not even going to get into that. But love is an experience. When you have love in your life for yourself and loving relationships, there is nothing you can't handle. Trust me. I went from a divorce, a lot of heartbreak, really traumatic loss, and it purified my heart. My heart was so dependent. It was so needy. It was always looking outside for something to soothe it because it was in a lot of pain. It wasn't getting my own love. I was not giving myself my own love. And so the love that I was supposedly giving others, it was basically needing them to be a reflection of my own love so that I could feel love. But I started becoming my own source. And that took a lot of grief and loss because that requires grieving. It requires taking time to sit with yourself and to nourish yourself and to go on journeys and walkabouts to get inspiration and to find out who you really are. To sit with mentors so that they can show you who you really are and guide you into your next evolution. Love is power. And just taking the time to do the energetic practices is an incredible way to build self-love. Self-advocacy is key on the path of balanced power because no one is going to give you permission to prioritize yourself or your family or your art or shifting the business into a more economically sustainable model or a model that includes caring for your entire team who probably has kids, who probably needs maternity and paternity leave, who probably care for elders, who might be dealing with a neurodivergence or another different ability or um, another way of being that may not be included. Economic status. There are people coming to work who are starving. And I've been there. I've been there because I used every penny. I was working 3 jobs and I barely had enough to buy my son's mac and cheese and a few other things for the house. And I was working snowshoe gigs, sometimes twice a day, and, hiking miles, burning calories. And I was going off of a can of olives or a protein bar that I got from work. So I experienced what it was like to be hungry. And I experienced that when I moved to Sedona to work for the city also. I had no money until I started getting those paychecks. And so in the meantime, I was eating very little avocado and corn tortillas every day and drinking a lot of water that I would scavenge, find in faucets. Um, and it was really difficult to do the work that was needed because my brain didn't have enough fuel. So these are things that a leader of a shifting economy is aware of. The leaders of New Earth, we'll call it, a new way of living that is actually supportive of our true nature. And our true nature has evolved quite a bit. We are remembering that we have energetic power, that love is a transformative power, that we are stronger together, that the media and the government mainly dehumanize. It's not all bad, but we are not seeing a clear picture of what we're capable of. And just look at your life. If you're watching this, you have accomplished something incredible. The fact that you are here and you're watching enriching content, being part of a community, whether it's love is freedom, balanced power, or another way you found this video, you're engaging. Your consciousness is on the right side. The consciousness that is succumbing to fear right now, they need our help. And Thich Nhat Hanh, he says that the collective fear and anxiety that's mainly caused by the media. And now we have social media as well, which is very helpful for telling real stories. But still, when we go on there, we can get sucked into this idea that everything is awful. When I'm looking outside my window and there's sunshine and trees, and my child laughs, and I find joy in a hummingbird, that can be really difficult to focus on if you haven't trained your focus. And my meditation program, the Dharana method, will show you how to train your focus, not just by sitting in meditation, because that's not ideal for everyone, but in finding the right meditation focus for you to harmonize your brain waves and to train that focus. That's what we do in the Dharana method. And that's why it's helped so many people who wrote off meditation, because meditation is difficult sometimes. A lot of people who found Dharana, they developed a deep love for mindfulness and meditation because they had choice. They could choose and feel and explore what focuses, whether it's a mantra, a sound, a walking meditation, a movement meditation, tantra, worked for them. And this is my core value: choice, freedom, stability, also sustainability, unity. I am talking probably to a lone wolf right now who may be hesitant to unify, to reach out, to socialize, to find love. And perhaps you think that no one's going to want to bother with you, that you're too messed up. You're not hanging around enough good people telling you how amazing you are and how just your essence, your existence is fun to be around, is nourishing. Lone wolves have been through a lot, and just the presence of you adds stability and safety and strength. We don't have to perform anymore. That's balanced power. Balanced power is coming into our authenticity where we're comfortable in ourselves. I have been the most awkward person on the planet, still am, or at least I feel like I'm going to be awkward. Still, I show up and I get goofy and I say a joke or be silly. I hate small talk. So maybe I'll start talking about some deep mystical experience I had, or asking someone who is important to them, or what excites them in the morning. And it works out those energies of social anxiety and awkwardness. And then I remember that I don't have to perform. I can simply breathe and smile and nod. And if I have nothing to say, I won't say anything. Engaging with others is a pleasure, because even if it's tiring at the time, when you leave that experience, you will be nourished. We have physiological responses to social interactions, so much so that the doctors behind the Wild Five, a workbook that has you journal the 5 elements of well being, one of them is social well being, every day until it becomes a habit. And that can save you from a place where you feel lost and when you're not well. It can anchor you into the moment, which is really helpful when your paradigms are shifting and nothing makes sense anymore. It's good to remember those 5 elements. The Wild Five. It's very cheap on Amazon. Also, the Dharana Method meditation. I teach it if you would like to learn it. And then you can even teach it with others. And a fun part of the Dharana Method is the meditative art mandala, because not only is your point of focus an enjoyable art experience, but you can also share it with your communities. You can share it with your teams. You can share it with your families. It's very easy to teach and share. And then you're sharing not only mindfulness, but beauty and fun and connection, because that's what we get to have more of. The isolation epidemic, that did the most damage after 2020, separating people and instilling division and fear. It caused a lot of unnecessary anxiety, and people still died. We belong with one another. I love my alone time. I go into my cave for a long time sometimes, and I probably will always do that, because for me, I'm very energetically sensitive and strong, but I love to recharge. And I also go into my meditation to get answers and insight for teaching, for solving my own problems, for giving myself time to process things like my feelings. I give myself a safe space to do that often. We're not done talking about power, though. Our definition of power, what is it? Is it simply the thing that turns on the lights? Is it the thing that drives your car? Is it the energy you wish you had more of? Is it your focused attention? Is it your capacity? Is it your drive? For me, again, it's love. If I love what I'm doing, even if I can find joy in what I'm doing, I feel powerful. When I advocate for myself, which is self-love, I feel powerful. I feel that power in me. And I don't hurt anybody when I feel powerful, because I know I'm very powerful, and I have hurt people in the past. I had a huge temper. I was not able to regulate that very easily. And it scared people, probably traumatized people. And healing that, because I became a mom and saw a little kid crying because I was mad, really just couldn't control or feel my emotions. So I just had to express it at the first moving target. That didn't feel good. That didn't feel good. So I started working on myself and got help for that. And I still get upset, but I get upset by myself. I will say the F word in my kitchen. I love the phrase F off. And if somebody has pissed me off in my kitchen, I will just yell F off to myself. Well, to them, really, but also with love, because I love them enough not to tell it to their face, because I'm transforming that emotion by letting it out and not letting it get repressed and turn into some dis-ease in my body, so that I can have a conversation from my prefrontal cortex where we talk about what's working and what's not working. So I've had a lot of help with my emotional regulation, and some people didn't stay in my life because I didn't learn that in time, but it's never too late. And you can always try to make amends. And the best revenge, anyway, is being happy. When we're talking about building our power and then balancing our power, the energetic level has been taught for thousands of years. And one of my favorite is Taoist yoga or Taoism, because it involves Tantra and our sexual energy. And it prioritizes sacred union between two people or whatever floats your boat, but loving union, loving, aware union, not taking something from another. That's energetic vampirism, but choosing to engage and nourish each other. And that empowers us exponentially to the point where we can actually call things to us simply by engaging in conscious, loving sex with one another. The energetics of it balance magnetism and creative energy, creating the perfect storm to set intentions, plant seeds, and receive. Because that's what masculine and feminine are doing, planting seeds and receiving, giving that energy, receiving that energy, cycling it through with love. Love is the amplifier. The feminine energy amplifies the masculine intention. And when that's done in love, that is amplified. When it's done in joy, it's amplified. These are high vibrations. Higher vibrations are more powerful. High vibrations is not just a slogan that New Age people use. It's the difference between feeling peace and openness and freedom, safety, versus fear, doubt, restriction, anger, jealousy, lack. If we just imagine a beautiful scene around a river where green is growing and birds are singing and the water is flowing, that's the energy that's inside of us. And we are getting better at focusing on who we actually are as this beautiful ecosystem, supremely intelligent, regenerative, sustainable ecosystem. It's beautiful. You are beautiful. Your light radiates. Your presence changes people. You are perfect just the way you are. And I'm so excited for you to watch the next videos and hear the incredible heart-based experts tell you all the reasons why you are whole and tips that anyone can do to remember that wholeness. free resources, free downloads, support materials. Because first, we're coming into our wholeness, our remembering of wholeness. Because from there, we need nothing. And we overflow in ways that feel good for us to overflow. I used to think overgiving was the only way to make a difference. But now I notice there are things that I just have so much of that I love sharing when I feel nourished. So I take a lot of time to nourish myself. And that naturally overflows. We all have responsibilities. Oh my goodness. Being a single mother and doing the community advocacy on the scale I've been doing it, while teaching meditation and catching up on all the bills that stacked up during my warrior's journey, my shamanic and medicine path, all of that. Oh my gosh, how are we doing that? Okay, where was I going with that? Time for a sip and a breath. I'm not sure what I was just saying. However, I do know that on this path, we are remembering who we really are, and we need nothing outside of ourselves. And so, this video series will help you remember that. And not only that, but it will help you be confident about who you are and know what your authentic energy is. What are your inherent gifts? So that we prevent ourselves from waking up to who we really are, going in the void, which is where your former self is falling apart, your life may be falling apart. Awakening is a destructive process. That's why I recommend preparing for it. And it comes in waves. You never really know when it's going to come. So be prepared to collapse your life at any time. That's just a good practice in these times, I feel. Get the camper van, have the food storage, have a side hustle, build your skills, build your network. There is nothing more important right now than community. It's more important than money, because when you do not have to do everything alone and something happens, someone can be there for you in ways that you can't be there for yourself. And part of community, in my philosophy, is everyone's going to need help in that community at some point. And you might be the one giving the help, you may be receiving the help, but we show up. We show up. It's like we can do this in our families, right? And in our communities, that pours over. That's part of the balanced power. When we come to our authenticity, when we're not afraid to be ourselves, because we've set up our life in a way that we are the ones showing people what's possible by being so true to ourselves that people can't help but be inspired. They might be triggered as hell, but they'll still be inspired. We deserve to live a life that's true to our nature. So we're finding that in balanced power, and then finding ways that inspire us to share that with the world. Now, there is no act of kindness too small. When you feel drawn to do something, do it. And it might make a huge impact. I'll give you an example. When I went to the city of Sedona to work for the city, I was tasked with updating the arts and culture page of the website. For me, I needed to know what the actual history of the place was, to know the culture. And I didn't feel like it was complete how they had it represented, because I knew so many Native people and read so many articles, especially from Dr. Maurice Crandall, who wrote several articles about the Yavapai Nation's connection to the Sedona area. And although some of the sacred sites he mentions are outside the technical city limits of Sedona, it still has the geographical dominance over and cultural dominance. So the city of Sedona, that culture dominates the Yavapai Apache culture, and there's sacred sites with, and that's the U.S. government, that's the federal government, that's the state government, not just the city of Sedona. They are actually an incredible group of people who are doing their jobs out of the goodness of their heart and the desire to make a difference. They are good people. I just happen to be the one who, for some reason, cares more about the greater good than my own job. And I got fired from my TV news job, canceled actually, for that same thing. I felt a need to remind people to protect their freedom, to not give in to all the fear. And with the city of Sedona and their historical document, not including the things I was reading from Dr. Crandall or reading in other accounts of Native history. I went to the Sedona Heritage Museum and talked to Nate Myers, the executive director there, and he was also concerned that the museum hadn't been sharing the Native interpretation of history, and he was actively working on that. So here I am, so inspired because I found this amazing award-winning Yavapai citizen historian professor who could tell me what really happened, and inform the Sedona Heritage Museum and help us write a new story that's inclusive for all the people in the area. I was so excited, but it was really difficult to get people on board with that vision. Why? Because people had other issues to deal with in the city. There's a lot going on, and they had no favors. The Red Rock News was constantly holding their feet to the fire, which really affected them, like on a deep level. Like it was really sad because I am very critical of I wouldn't say I am critical, but I analyze structures and businesses for inclusion, for integrity. My Buddhist name is Inclusive Song of the Heart. I need it to be an inclusive environment. So that's part of my criteria. And the people in the city, they were all so open-minded, open-hearted, really wanting to do the right thing, but under so much pressure. And there was also some fear that since there hasn't been ethical relationships between the native nations and the city, and there's been some weird things like just outside of the city of Sedona, a hotel was built on the Yavapai Apache's most sacred site. And some really weird things were going on with cultural appropriation, or, when they did pay native guides or artists, things got weird, or they were fired and never replaced. Things that would be unsettling if this is your part of your heritage. So I saw that this was necessary, not just necessary for the native nations to have access to these sacred sites, but some credit for all of the ceremonies and all of the love and intention that's gone into that area with all of their ritual. And it's all love. It's love. It's love of the land. It's love of each other. And they are the reason Sedona is so special. And Sedona knows it too. The culture there is all Southwest native inspired. But where is the actual successful native citizen in Sedona? Where is the native citizen who feels seen and acknowledged and respected and assisted in that city? Now, something amazing is happening. The fear was very real because for the city, they didn't know if one phone call I made could set off a whole political domino effect that would set relations back even further. But I've got more tact than that, and I love my bosses at the city, and I loved my contacts who were helping me with this mission. One of the most important pieces of this mission, Dr. Crandall came to Sedona to speak about his people's interpretation of the history. And mind you, his family were removed from the area of Sedona and forcibly marched, like a death march, to reservation land. And it was very small. It's not like everyone was getting these huge amounts of land. It was a very horrifying account that his family went through and passed down the oral history and records. Like, his family was there, and he has taken it upon himself to share that with people who may not know, because the history that Sedona had did not match his, and the Sedona Heritage Museum acknowledged it. So he was pivotal in what I'm about to tell you has eventually happened. And another person is Nancy Latanzi, the arts and culture director at the city of Sedona, because she has put so much work into interconnecting the different groups within Sedona and has always been open to creating spaces for Native artists and programs involving Native neighbors. And I invited her and many others at the city to Dr. Crandall's talk as the introduction to, this is why I feel we should change our historical document. And Nancy showed up, and Nancy introduced herself to Dr. Crandall, and she learned all about his people's experience in the city she works for. And she brought that back. And I followed up about the proposal I sent in. I followed up a few weeks ago, and the incredible mother and community leader and a real powerhouse for inclusion, the city manager, Annette Spickard, she wrote back and said, not only are she and the Yavapai Apache Nation chairwoman meeting and actively cultivating a relationship, but Dr. Crandall and the Sedona Heritage Museum provided the city with interpretive history panels that did show the forcible removal of the indigenous people in that area. And they are being installed in the sidewalk in the city of Sedona. And I know Nancy, the arts and culture guru there, had something to do with that too. So now the history is inclusive and the communication is open. And this is how we do this. This is how we create a new society where we are not disowning any part that feels scary or foreign. We are so strong together. Oh my goodness. The skills that Native people not only have developed over their couple hundred years of oppression, but lifetimes, centuries of working with the earth and of a development of the heart and intuition with the environment, leadership, government styles that account for different tribal creeds, clan systems to account for different philosophies within a whole. We have so much to learn from one another, especially when our way isn't working that well and there's a lot of people suffering. We can learn so much from them about medicine, soul medicine, heart medicine. I knew a former cop who was having a rough time, and he found the medicine path, and he decided to start learning how to be a sun dancer. And look up sun dancers. They are probably the most devoted warriors you could ever experience, because they are going to receive a vision by some intense physical conditions. And he's, a white cop, but a very powerful healer. And he remembered that by going through his medicine ceremonies and by learning to be a sun dancer. And so now he's a sun dancer with a tribe. Like he crossed cultures, he integrated cultures. And we can do that. We don't need to appropriate. We can be ambassadors for one another and learn from one another. And that's the balance. Balancing our inner world, and then looking at our life and seeing where we are participating in things that aren't serving us or are actively hurting us or hurting others. Simply by being human on this planet, we're going to hurt things. We're going to destroy things. But we can make as minimal suffering as possible and use suffering as a measure of, is this something that serves me? Does it cause me or others a lot of suffering? Or does it cause me and others a lot of well-being? Those are the only two yardsticks you need. I like to say, does it feel good? Or does it not feel good? Does your body give a full F yes? Those are the things we really get to follow, which sometimes we have to be very brave and disappoint people to be able to follow our soul's true path. And when you get comfortable with advocating for yourself, you will not give one flag about who is hating on you. You might actually enjoy it because it means they're watching. No such thing as bad publicity, right? But being yourself, that's your authentic frequency. And when you're in that authentic frequency, that's when you start to be on your path. That's when you magnetize things and create things with ease, because you can hear yourself and you can feel what's an F yes in your body, what causes you to feel well-being instead of suffering. And when you do that in your organizations, your communities, when you encourage that, when, for example, the founder of Patagonia, Zen Buddhist, he did not want to be a businessman, but he happened to find a material that was just so cheap and served so much purpose that he wanted all of his outdoor enthusiast people to try it. And it became a hit. It was a craze. So he started a business around it. And he wanted to align with these very specific values. And one of them was he didn't hire people of business backgrounds. He hired anthropologists and people interested in the outdoors and moms, he had a policy where you are just yourself. So he said in the early days of his business, moms would have their new babies in cardboard boxes on their desks. And it got to a point where there were some screamer babies, and so they had to start a daycare. But from the beginning, he was inclusive of his people. He valued honoring you as a human, not that he suddenly had power over your human nature just because he was your boss. He also prioritized flex time. He made a policy of when it's surf time, you go surfing. Because he said most surfers like to go out Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. Why take control over their whole 8 hour day just because I'm a business? Go surfing when it's time to go surfing. Incredible leadership. That's what's possible. And even though his business is not experiencing constant growth, he said that when you do things right, it just works well. So, what does that mean, right? When you do things that are in alignment to your authenticity and you're looking at your team, who are they? How do we support their authentic alignment? How do we work together for a shared vision? And then you add that element of balanced power of causing the least amount of suffering while infusing well being into one area or the environment. Or I think you can go a long way with just doing that in your organization and in your families. But when you go extend it, like when I had the desire to interconnect communities, and this is going across multiple states, Utah, Arizona, Miami, Massachusetts, Texas, which was exhausting, but it taught me everything that I needed to know to be in this position, to know what it is this country is actually dealing with and how to speak to different groups in this country. What are we dealing with? What do we need? How can I support you? Because I am a connector. I have been gifted with so much access to incredible leaders, incredible teachers, um, people in the media, celebrities, authors, and politicians. And I want to give everyone that access. So I want to connect leaders with one another. I want to interconnect so that we can share resources if times call for it. And even to save money when your growth is down and you really need a favor or you need a personal loan. Like, community is everything, and community in business is going to change the game. When we go from competition to collaboration, you see long-term profits. Just like the Patagonia founder, he said, when we decided to be socially responsible and collaborative, we don't grow huge profits, but we are constantly profitable. We are not worried. We have maybe 3% growth this year. Not worried because we're always profitable. We have a process that works for us. And that's energetic alignment as well. When you're doing some good with what you're doing, with what you're making money off of, when you're doing some good too, you will be taken care of. In my Harvard course on sustainable business strategy, the professor impressed this saying on us of, we're going from me now to us later. I feel like it doesn't have to be either or. It is me now. That's all there is here and now. And also, I plan to be here and now infinitely because we don't really die. Our energy is always here. So there is a later. And our relationship to time changes when we're in the now. When I meditate in the morning, I somehow have time for every single thing that I'm supposed to do that day. And not just have time for it, but my day feels airy. It reorganizes your internal world and you have a more time. You have the resource of time on your side. It is the wildest thing. That's fourth dimension stuff. We're in the third dimension. When you start to become multidimensional, you'll start to learn these things from the present moment and your meditations. When I sat in meditation for 3 years, black, wasn't seeing anything, wasn't getting any visions. People in my trainings were seeing things, and I was like, wow, I'm teaching this and I'm not even seeing this. Something must be wrong with me. But my awakening was not through the crown, which is in esoteric traditions. Your awakening can come from the top down, like from source down, your pillar of light, lighting up your energetic centers, going all the way down through the earth. It can come from the bottom up, a kundalini awakening, which goes from your root chakra all the way up through your crown, clearing out your shishamna, your main energy channel. And that's tantra, right? And kundalini yoga helps you clear out those channels and awaken your kundalini. I hate that I just said right. Like it's just expected that that's true. When I say right, call me out on it in the comments, please. Thank you. My awakening was something that's very rare in esoteric traditions, and I'm so glad that I studied with Dr. Robert J. Gilbert and his infinite encyclopedic hands-on experience of these esoteric traditions. And he provided me with so much knowledge of what was happening, what could be happening. And my awakening was through the heart. I was dealing with a divorce that caused me so much pain and fear. I was already a meditation and yoga teacher, and then I got fired from my dream job of hosting a lifestyle show, was losing my dream house. I had no idea how I was going to provide for my son. I had no money. I had no job. And one night, as I was sitting in the house that I was about to leave by myself, my son was with his dad, which also terrified me at first, to let my son go as a mom. Like, oh my gosh, that was the worst feeling. And I've had to experience that a lot more over the years. But that night, I felt such despair that I got these statues. I've never worked with statues in magic, but I went to the witch store and got these two statues of Anubis, the Egyptian god of protector of the dead. He will take care of things that are no longer serving you. You can give things to him and he will take them away and protect them so that you don't have to manage that. And Bastet, the goddess of creation, she will help fill that void with nourishment and creation when that thing leaves. So the witch store said, you will activate these when you leave an offering. So that night I was like, screw this. I'm leaving an offering. Maybe something will happen. I'm lighting a fire outside. This was outside under full moon. And it was like Freaky Friday where it was like, but I was hit in the heart. I was a heart awakening, balancing my masculine and feminine energies. Anubis and Bastet, they were my guides. And I didn't know what guides were. I never talked to a guide in my life. But all of a sudden, I could hear them. I could channel automatic writings from them. And it was all about balance. So I learned balanced power in higher realms. I watched other people. I experienced it. I experienced a lot of imbalance. And my son and I achieved balanced power this summer. And that's when I knew that it was something I needed to share. Because if this can affect our kids and help them lead lives where they never question their worthiness, they never second guess living lives of joy. They know that they're not alone. They know that they are powerful. That everything that we're going through, what we've done to bring that awareness into their lives, all the challenges, all the failures, if they have that, it's been worth it, isn't it? Thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. And I'm excited to support you, or at least validate all the work you've done, and maybe give you some things that you can share with your communities, your organizations, your families, your partner, that will allow you to lead a life of joy, of pleasure, of fun, of purpose and fulfillment by being true to who you really are, coming into your power and creating your map of balance. I respect you. If you watch this whole thing, thank you. And I hope to see you next time on Balance Power. Love is freedom, and you are perfect just the way you are.